We welcome the use of Welsh language at meetings. I've had no requests for people to speak Welsh today, so this meeting will be conducted in English only. Members in the chamber, please be aware that we are all on camera and you may be visible on screen when people around you are speaking. And please remember to speak clearly into your microphones. Members participating remotely, can you please refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raised hand icon to indicate when you wish to speak. Please remember to keep your microphones muted when you're not talking. May I remind members that as the statutory guidance made under Section 4 of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011 and our formally adopted hybrid meeting policy, any member attending a meeting remotely must be able to be seen and heard by members and officers who are attending the meeting, as well as by members of the public viewing the meeting. So can I ask you all to please use your cameras for the duration of the meeting, please? Before we start the meeting today, I would like to ask everyone present to join me in observing a minute's silence to remember the innocent victims of the devastating events in Israel and Palestine. Please stand. Moving on to the agenda, we have agenda item number 1, attendance. Democratic Services will be making a note of members' attendance in the meeting, but should you lose connection, could you possibly leave a comment in the chat bar on your return to ensure that this is picked up? Agenda item 2, apologies for absence. Dominique, have we any apologies, please?
Thank you, Chair. I've had apologies from Councillors Ron Burnett, Fiona Cross, Janet Jones and Norma Parrish.
Thank you, Dominique. Agenda item 3, which is the declarations of interest. Delith Harris, Monitoring Officer and Assistant Chief Legal Officer. Have you any advice for members, please?
Thank you, Presiding Member. I'm not aware of any declarations, as the reports are fairly general, but if you enter into a debate or ask a specific question about a matter on the agenda, then you can consider declaring an interest at that time. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you, Delith. It takes us to agenda item 4, the confirmation of the Council minutes on the 19th of September 2023, starting on page 5 of your agenda. Members, could you possibly state whether you have anything to raise in relation to the minutes? If not, I will take them as approved. Don't see any comments. I take those as approved. Thank you very much. Agenda item 5, update on actions. Members, the updates on what has been done to implement our previous decisions start on page 33 of the agenda. Could you possibly indicate whether you have any questions or comments? No? Can I ask members if you agree to note the update on actions? Thank you. Noted. Agenda item 6, receipt of petitions. There are no petitions, so we'll move on. Agenda item 7, public question time. There are no public questions, so we'll move on to agenda item 8, the announcements from the Leader and the Chief Executive. Leader, do you have any announcements to make, please?
Thank you, Presiding Member. Can I start by thanking members for attending the unveiling of the portrait of Corporal Michael Thacker this morning? I know how appreciative, having spoken to them afterwards, Michael's family were of the attendance, and it'll be good to see the portrait and plaque up to remember him in the Civic Centre for years to come. Next, it was an honour to attend the Torvine Voluntary Alliance Awards last Friday. The dedication of the nominees to our communities is inspiring and a real sign of the strength of our borough. How we support and build on the strength of our communities to get the best outcomes together will continue to be a key aspect of our work as a council. Next, I'd like to wish our mental health champion, Councillor Nick Byrne, all the best on his Saharan fundraiser. In just a few weeks' time, he'll be embarking on his 8-day trek in memory of his friend Lee Robinson and to raise funds for the charity Tidy Bat, which, as well as being a great charity helping raise awareness and get support for men's mental health, is a two-word phrase I've always wanted to use here in the council. For once, it's not me doing the long-distance challenge, but I am supporting the Gwent Hope Walk, which is taking place in Pontypool Park on the 26th of October. The walk's led by the Paperist charity to raise awareness of suicide prevention and of emotional and mental health support available. Last of all, I'd like to invite Glenavon Bowls Club down to the front of the chamber on behalf of Councillor Janet Jones. Now, unfortunately, Councillor Jones can't be here today after the passing of her mother, but she has asked me to welcome Glenavon Bowls Club to the chamber in recognition of their centenary year and of a successful season, reaching the semi-finals of the Carruthers Cup and being promoted, which seems like a great way to celebrate the centenary year to me. So well done to all the Bowls Club at Glenavon, and I'd like to come and present them with this award and for the Glenavon councillors to come and join me. So thank you to Janet for suggesting this nomination.
Thank you for that, Leader. Chief Executive, do you have any announcements?
Nothing to add, thank you, Madam Presiding Member.
Thank you. That takes us to agenda item 9, the annual governance statements, which starts on page 35 of your agenda. Gareth Harris, Monitoring Officer and Assistant Chief Legal Officer, could you deliver this report, please?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. The purpose of this report is for the Council to agree the annual governance statement for the year 2022-23, as shown in the appendix. The statement sets out the governance processes and the arrangements that have been operating within the authority for that year. It has been considered by the leadership team and it has been scrutinised by the Governance and Audit Committee. You will, members, be familiar with the document from previous years as it is in the same format, but it has been updated by the officers responsible for the various governance processes. I don't propose to go through the document as you will in entirety, as I will assume that you've read it, but I will highlight some of the key updates for you. Paragraph 6.2 onwards refers to the new county plan and the annual delivery plan. Paragraph 6.11 refers to the new requirement for the Council to undertake a self-assessment of its performance and a report regarding that, and also that's on the agenda today. The Council's performance management framework has been reviewed and updated, and that's referred to in paragraph 7.1 onwards. Paragraph 9.15 refers to the introduction of a corporate portfolio board to approve oversight and assurance of the key programmes and objectives. And then paragraph 10.8 refers to the revised governance arrangements in education and the formation of an accelerated improvement group and a strategic improvement board. Then finally, paragraph 11 refers to the review of the effectiveness of the governance framework, and that indicates that the arrangements in place during the year were effective. So the recommendation is for you to consider and approve the statement. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you, Dara. Are there any members wishing to comment or ask questions? Councillor Peter Jones.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. I'd just like to thank Delith for this report. As a council, we're subject to a huge amount of scrutiny internally and externally, and we tend to do rather well. My belief is that as a council, we run a tight ship in terms of governance, and I'd just like to go on record as saying that, and I'm sure all the councillors present today will agree with this, we really appreciate the impartial and excellent advice that we get from the legal team within the council. So thank you.
Leader.
I'd just like to echo that. Reports like this can look like they're quite dry until they're interesting. And an interesting governance report is probably the last thing you want as a councillor. So I'm in debt to the work of officers and of members for ensuring that this is a dry report that concludes that there aren't any significant issues that we need to be concerned with. So thank you to everyone for their involvement with that.
Thank you, Leader. Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor David Williams.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. This is just to confirm, essentially, that the Governance and Audit Committee gave this careful scrutiny, and I would be very pleased to recommend acceptance of this report.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. That seems to be that. And can I ask members whether they agree with the recommendations, please, which are on page 35? Thank you. Any members against those recommendations? No. Any members wishing to abstain? Thank you very much. That report is carried. Thank you, Della. Agenda item 10, Statement of Accounts 2022-23, which start on page 53 of your agenda. David Lilly, Director of Financial Services, could you deliver the report for us, please?
Thank you, Presiding Member. This item follows on from the annual governance report that you've just considered. With this report presenting to you as Council the 22-23 Statement of Accounts for consideration and approval. The Statement of Accounts was submitted to Audit Wales in May 2023 for their consideration and review. This audit process has now been completed, and I'm pleased to say that the external auditor intends to issue an unqualified audit opinion following the approval of the statement by yourselves. The Statement of Accounts and audit findings were presented and accepted by the Governance and Audit Committee last week as those charged with governance, and the statement is attached as appendix to the report along with the annual letter of representation. Unfortunately, there's one amendment that I need to bring to your attention on the statement that you have as an appendix, and this is outlined at page 124 of your pack or page 69 of the statement in hard copy. It revolves around note 21 to the balance sheet, which is the analysis of creditors. So this change relates to a reclassification of items from short-term creditors to other long-term credit liabilities, which was requested in action during the audit process. Unfortunately, the note was not updated at the same time as the actual balance sheet. This change has no impact on any other part of the accounts, as the balance sheet and the other long-term liabilities, note 22, had already been amended. So on page, so the uncorrected table at the moment on page 124, you've got a small table there, which with a line of other entities and individuals, including trade creditors, which is showing a value of 26,692,000, and a total then on that table of 31,246. The corrected table should read for that line 21,200,000 with a total value of 25,755. Apologies for that oversight in presenting to you. So, following consideration of the accounts by Council, 3 governance actions are needed and completed to allow the final sign of the Auditor General for Wales. These are the signing of the Statement of Accounts, indicating approval by the presiding member of Council and by the Chief Financial Officer, signing of the letter of representation by the Chair of the Governance and Audit Committee, as met last week, and by the Chief Financial Officer, and finally the signing of the annual governance statement by the Leader and the Chief Executive. These authorised documents then will then be submitted to Audit Wales for final certification, and that is planned for this Thursday, the 26th of October. Presiding Member, that concludes my presentation and introduction. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, David. Any questions for David Lilly? Thank you, Sue Morgan. Councillor.
Thank you very much, Madam Presiding Member. I just wanted to confirm that I think the statement presents a really comprehensive summary of the Council's use of resources and its performance. I really welcome the unqualified audit opinion from the Auditor General for Wales. I think it's a tribute to the efficient and effective financial management of the organisation, and a testament to the financial awareness that we have right across all our departments, and particularly to the skills and experience of our very able finance team. So my congratulations to Nigel, and particularly to Dave Lilly and the team for that. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Any other members wishing to speak? No? Can I ask member... Sorry. Councillor Dave Williams.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. It's echo the comments of my colleague, Councillor Morgan. I think this went through a detailed scrutiny and questioning at the Governance and Audit Committee, which I was pleased to report back on. My question really, observation really, is that I hope that obviously those deliberations through Project Apollo will then be fed forward in terms of our forward financial planning, which will follow on. And I know members will welcome the opportunity to get into the detail of that. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Anybody else wishing to speak? Stuart Ashley.
I'd like to recommend that we accept it. I'm also on the audit, the Governance and Audit Committee, and obviously impressed with the process. And I'd like to thank the officers and other members, because we certainly went through this with that committee. So I'd like to propose it, if I may, please.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ashley. I don't see anyone else wishing to speak. Can I then ask the members whether they agree with the recommendations? Anyone against the recommendations? And any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, David. Takes us to agenda item 11, the Torfaen Local Development Plan Annual Monitoring Report for 2022. This report starts on page 143 of the agenda. Robert Murray, Principal Planner, could you please deliver the report for us, please?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. This report covers the Local Development Plan Annual Monitoring Report for the financial year 2022 to 23. Despite work to promote the allocated development sites in the current LDP, progress in delivering of the strategy was initially slower than expected. This was primarily due to the global recession in 2008, which resulted in a lag on the housing and in particular employment markets from that period onwards, as landowners and developers were more reluctant to bring sites forward. Although the LDP strategy is still fundamentally sound, the previous 2017 to 2022 annual monitoring reports showed there was evidence to indicate a need for a full review of the adopted local development plan. The review was carried out and work commenced on a replacement local development plan in April 2008. However, as members will be aware, the initial replacement local development plan was withdrawn as the risk of continuing with the initial RLDP is being found and sound was considered to be significant. Work on a new replacement local development plan commenced in August of this year. Whilst the review of the current plan has led to the commencement of work on a replacement plan, there is still a statutory requirement set by Welsh Government to produce annual monitoring reports on the existing plan until it is superseded. The result of the monitoring report is it still performs as a sound basis for making plan decisions, and the recommendation of this is that the town monitoring report attached to this report be approved and submitted to Welsh Government. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Any questions to the report? No? Thank you. The recommendations start on page 154 of the report. Can I ask members whether they agree with the recommendations? Anyone against the recommendations? Councillor Haynes and Councillor Davis, you're against, yes? Any abstentions? And Mark Jones abstains. Thank you very much. That's carried. Thank you. Agenda item 12, Annual Self-Assessment and Wellbeing Report, which starts on page 205 of the agenda. Stephen Vickers, Chief Executive, could you deliver this report for us, please?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. The Local Government Elections Act 2021 and the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act 2015 requires all councils in Wales to publish an annual self-assessment report setting out the extent to which we are meeting our performance requirements and publish an annual report of our progress against our wellbeing objectives. This report, set out in Appendix 1, is our statutory annual report meeting both requirements for the financial year 2022-23. All councils are required to keep their performance arrangements under review, and Torfaen will do this through robust, continuous self-assessment, the findings of which will be reported through this annual report. The report, therefore, is only as good as the arrangements that we have in place and the work we have done to better understand our performance and respond accordingly. The mainstay of the document is set out in section 4 of the appended report, where details can be found on the progress made against the Council's agreed 9 county plan priorities, our wellbeing objectives, which were adopted by Council in December 22. You'll see at the start of section 4 there is an overview of the progress made against our annual delivery plan, followed by a more detailed review of the work carried out. However, this in itself is only a summary of the full delivery plan, which was presented to Council in July 2023. The development of our county plan and delivery plan has provided officers with a clear focus on our priorities for delivery, and I hope for members it has strengthened your ability to challenge and assure the progress we are making against the Council's ambitions. The self-assessment report aims to demonstrate the improvements made in delivering our shared priorities. As always, though, the work undertaken is down to a coordinated effort of staff, members, partners and, of course, our communities, who are playing an ever-increasing role. For each priority, we set out the challenges that need to be overcome in order to take these forward, followed by a link to the new delivery plan which was adopted by Council in February 23. When last year's report was presented to Council, members will remember that it included an explanation how Torfaen has developed its own complementary framework which sets standards that will assist us in our continuous quest to become, and where relevant to maintain, being an outstanding council. This framework has been refined further over the past 12 months, which affords us the opportunity to take this section of the report far more corporately and strategically, with a focus on delivering the big changes within the organisation that are helping to take forward our ambitions. Throughout the report, there is further context setting out how the Council integrates what it does through internal planning processes, how it joins that up with the work of partners, how it plans its finances to support the delivery of the county plan, how it consults on its performance and monitors progress, and how we will seek to further improve on the arrangements. Self-assessment is extremely important to Torfaen Council, not just because of our legislative duties or requirements, but because it creates the right culture for us as an organisation, one that supports innovation, is open to challenge, is always looking to learn and wants to continuously improve. I hope that members do get a sense of this cultural shift coming through the report. The report was received by the Governance and Audit Committee on the 3rd of October 23. This is part of the overall statutory process for producing our annual report, providing further rigour and assurance that the Council is doing all that it can to meet its performance requirements. To do justice to the extensive work of the Council and to meet statutory requirements, the report becomes unavoidably sizable. As such, this year, we have developed a summary document which is set out in Appendix 2 of the report. This is part of an overall drive to make information about the Council's work and its performance more accessible and more transparent to members and to Torfaen's residents. This, in turn, also makes us more accountable to those who we serve. I'm joined by Council's senior leadership team who are on hand to answer any questions on service specifics, and I'm also joined by Tom Roberts, who is on hand to respond to any procedural inquiries that members may have. And finally, if I could just extend a big thank you to Leanne Skellett, Catherine Joseph, and indeed to Tom Roberts, who have done really all the hard yards in pulling this report together. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Anyone wishing to comment or ask Councillor Peter Jones?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. I'd just like to thank Stephen for this report. It's a long report and there's a huge amount of work gone into it from across the Council. A mainstay of this report is how we're delivering the Council's county plan, and I did give councillors a lengthy detail about how we were performing in the July council meeting. So I'm sure councillors will be pleased that I'm not going to repeat all that again today. But my view is quite clear that as a council, we're certainly improving in the way that we monitor performance, which is a good thing, and that allows us to challenge if we need to, and long may that continue. This is a good report, and I hope that councillors will back the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Leader?
Thank you, Presiding Member. The report does come at a sort of interesting time. As Peter says, it's the sort of culmination of part of a year-round process, I think, and the key sort of question that looms over it is how we achieve our 9 objectives with ever less resource. And I think the approach that's being taken of improved data, more intelligence, better self-awareness, which comes as a result of those two, I think is key in looking at our priorities, assessing where we are and where we need to get. It's all about, for me, creating that improved positive feedback loop that we get of input of policies, looking at the data, evaluating their impact, and then looking what else needs to be done, whether those were the right inputs or whether we need to reevaluate. And I think that kind of open and honest assessment process is key to trying to tackle some of those 9 objectives, which are wide-reaching and do go across council department boundaries, which I think is very important. But getting that positive feedback loop going, I think, is where we can get real improvements in outcome. Of course, that approach requires openness and honesty. It requires a constructive challenge culture, not a culture of just echo chambers and always agreeing, but neither a culture of point scoring. And I think getting that balance right is a key thing for us as politicians in how we interact with this process. I think the process needs cabinet members led by Peter, and chief officers led by Stephen, and I'll say a bit more about that in a second, scrutiny members led by the chairs, and scrutiny officers led by Tom and Leanne, working with that right culture year-round to get those improvements. So I'd like to thank all those people I've just mentioned for what I think is a really improving picture on self-assessment and on the use of data and intelligence. I think it really has come on leaps and bounds. A lot of that, I think, is due to the forensic approach that Stephen's taken, never just accepting the status quo, always looking to push to get better outcomes for the people we represent. So that from Stephen down on officer side and from Peter down on a member side is something I really appreciate as leader. So thank you to all your hard work for that. I hope we can step this up again next year to continue getting those questions asked, to continue to really drill down into the data, into the intelligence we have as we start to get better data and better intelligence, so that we can make those incisive interventions where necessary, so that we can be as self-aware as possible about where we can improve and what we need to retain as a council, and about which actions we take as a council impact our communities most. I mentioned in my announcements how a great strength of our area is the strength of volunteering and of community within our area. Public services in the past, councils in the past have seemed to view themselves as the #1 dischargers of public services, doing things to their community. We're very much trying to move away from that to a situation where we work with our community to get better outcomes, that we build our communities up working with them, not doing things to them. And how we approach that, I think, is a key challenge for us as we move forwards. How we build on the strength of that community activism that we have here. We might not be the richest area, but I think we've got some people who are willing to go above and beyond to help our community, both people who work for the council and people outside in our communities. So I'd like to thank all of them for their hard work and recommend this report to members.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Stuart Ashley.
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you, Stephen, and thank you, Peter, and thank you for the team that wrote this. Obviously, as a scrutiny chair and the one that was working with it last year, it's become more and more coherent, driven by the data, Anthony said, and working with our communities. It's certainly something myself and the other chairs have actually discussed this, and it's something that we can relate to, the 9 principles. Before that, it was the 3 principles, but this is a lot more coherent and something we can totally work with. And at scrutiny, I think we refer to it. It's got a pattern, it's got a story, it's something, and this one says 22, 23. It's ongoing, so it's a horrible word, but it's actually something that you can work with. I certainly recommend it, and pleased to be working with this. So, as I said, thank you everybody involved with it, and let's hope that we can develop this further and further. And it's one of the most clear things that I think I've had to work with on this council.
Thank you, Councillor Ashley. Councillor David Williams.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. I'd echo the comments made by previous colleagues. A lot of work's gone into this, and a detailed amount of scrutiny. I particularly would draw colleagues' attention to the fact that the role of member champions has now been articulated here, and key conclusions on page 255. So I think that's a very excellent summary, and I would commend this report as well.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. I don't see any other hands raised. I draw members' attention to the recommendations which are on page 211 of the report at 8.1. Can I ask members if they agree with the recommendations, please? Anyone against the recommendations? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you very much, members. Agenda item 13, which is the Corporate Joint Committee scrutiny arrangements, on page 271 of your agenda. Rachel Jowett, Strategic Director, Economy and Environment. Could you deliver this report, please?
Thank you, Presiding Member. Good morning, members. Looking back over previous papers in preparation for today, I realised that January 2022 was the last time Council received a report on the creation of the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee. Therefore, given that we had then elections in May in 2022, I'll just attempt to briefly outline some background to the Corporate Joint Committees and its purpose, so this report can be seen in context. Firstly, in 2015-16, each council from the 10 councils from Bridgend to Monmouthshire, and including all the South East Wales Valleys authorities, signed up to a UK Treasury-led City Deal investment. This saw full commitment to the implementation of the South Wales Metro and a £500 million wider investment fund created to stimulate and drive economic prosperity in the region. Key parts of this wider investment fund include prioritisation in key sectors such as compound semiconductors, energy, medtech and fintech. For Torfaen, the key investment locally to date has been in the Pontypool and Newing station upgrade, which is part of the Metro Plus programme. The City Deal is led by the 10 leaders and is formally constituted as a joint committee with Cardiff Council as the accountable body. That is, Cardiff hold responsibility for governance and accounting, and this is then formally shared with the other 9 councils through a council-approved joint working agreement. In 2020-21, Welsh Government, as part of their local government modernisation reforms, introduced the concept of corporate joint committees. Unlike the City Deal Joint Committee and other joint committees which we run, for example, Gwent Crematoria, which are set up under existing local government legislation, a CJC becomes a corporate body in its own right. It can hold assets, employ staff, have its own bank account and must have its own legal structure. In summary, Welsh Government wanted a corporate joint committee to have all the same powers, rights, responsibilities and also flexibilities as a council. It was agreed in South East Wales that the CJC for South East Wales would be mirrored and led by the Cardiff Capital Region. We didn't see the point of having two separate organisations over the 10 councils. So it does sort of complicate things when I'm talking about the CJC of the CCR, but that's what we are sort of living with at the moment. Due to the complexity of creating a brand new local government organisation, it's important to stress to members the CJC is not in full effect yet. It has not been in operation. It is very much in its creation mode, and this report needs to be seen within that context. It is, however, planned to go live with full operationalisation from April 2024. Welsh Government had many instruments and particularly financial issues that they had to put in place prior to the CJC and fully operating. And the CJC will have three statutory purposes. One, regional transport planning, but I have to stress this is building on over 20 years of regional collaboration on transport in South East Wales, and in particular rail and bus strategies, of which the Metro Plus programme is but a part. Regional land use planning, a really important role as there will in time be a strategic development plan over South East Wales, of which our LDP will then become a sub-plan. This is going to take many years in the making, and we will most definitely be taking members on that journey as it progresses. And the third statutory duty is a general competence power of economic well-being. I'm not going to go into any more detail on these areas, members, as that isn't the overall purpose of the report. I can, however, advise that on 27th of November, ahead of any further reports to Council, we will be holding a member seminar with the Chief Executive of the CCR and the CJC, and Kelly Byrne will be joining us. As the report outlines, the City Deal Joint Committee has a joint overview and scrutiny committee. As part of the transfer of functions to the Corporate Joint Committee, the Council needs to formally approve that the existing scrutiny committee basically transfers and becomes the joint overview and scrutiny committee of the CJC. Therefore, its purpose and remit will broaden to cover the wider functions that I've outlined. Currently, Councillor Nathan Yowell is the Council's appointed scrutiny member, and this is done like all our appointments at the AGM in May. This report doesn't look to change that representation, but does also look to nominate a deputy should Councillor Yowell be unable to attend. Other councils have deputies, and this ensures strong representation and scrutiny of this important regional body. Therefore, I propose this report to Council to approve. I'm happy to take any questions on the CJC or also CCR, but also would appreciate that members that we do have the seminar on the 27th of November where we can get into more detail. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel. Leader?
Thank you, Presiding Member, and thank you, Rachel, for that report detailing the transition of the Cardiff Capital Region into the CJC and the appointment of our scrutiny members on it. I think that transition is something that is a key thing for Council to engage with, so I'm pleased about the 27th of November seminar date, which we've been trying to secure so that councillors can find out more and ask questions about that. The move from the Cardiff Capital Region into the CJC was driven by our wishes as a group of leaders to avoid duplication, to avoid creating just another committee on top of all the other ones. If you think we've got quite a crowded regional working space between between all the different bodies that work on a regional footprint, from the RPB to all the other different regional working groups that we do. And we were keen to make sure that we didn't have two bodies running permanently side by side when we can deal with the city deal aspects that we need to deal with within the CJC. So that transition's been, I know, a lot of work both for officers locally and also for the team at Cardiff Capital Region, but I think it will pay dividends in the long run. And I think that the key point is about involving members in that going forward. I'd like to thank Nathan and David in anticipation of them taking up those roles. It's not the easiest area to scrutinise, firstly because it runs beyond our council area into the 10 council areas in South East Wales, and secondly because a lot of it is, I think, necessarily pre-scrutiny and is dealing with things that aren't necessarily bricks and mortar, but work streams that are going on, and that's never as easy to scrutinise as things that are either more immediate or things in the past. But I think getting that constructive joint scrutiny group up across the region, I think will help improve the way that we work as a region. And I think working as a region is the right thing to do to get benefits for all our counties. So thank you for their contribution to that, and I look forward to the seminar on the 27th of November to talk about this more.
Thank you, Leader. I don't see any other hands raised. I'll refer you to the recommendations, which are on page 273 of the report. Can I ask members if they agree with the recommendations, please? Anyone against? Any abstentions? That report is carried. Thank you very much. Takes us to agenda item 14, which is the Gwent Regional Partnership Board, RPB. The Area Plan and RPB Annual Report 22-23, which starts on page 281 of your agenda. Jason O'Brien, Strategic Director, Children and Family Services.
Chair, could I kick things off with this?
Yes, please.
Okay?
Thank you.
So
Thank you, Councillor David Daniels.
I think I'll give a bit of context about the RPB as well, because I think you don't know what the RPB is until you're on it, and that's a crazy thing because it's such an important body. So I think I've discussed with Jason and Phil that we'll have a members seminar on the RPB because I think it's an important thing that members are aware of. Put succinctly, it's a partnership between all the local councils, social care services, and the local health board, third sector, citizens representatives, and the aim of it is basically to better integrate health and well-being, health and social care, recognising that the outcomes for both health and social care are inextricably linked. The RPB commissions a range of services across Gwent to deliver on those joint key objectives and priorities agreed by the RPB. These objectives and priorities are determined by the regional area plan, which you're being asked to look at today. So the Social Services and Wellbeing Act of 2014 places a duty on local authorities and health boards to prepare the regional area plan, and this is following the publication of the population needs assessment, which looks on a regional basis at basically the demographics we've got in all of Gwent. So how's our population changing? Generally, the demographics ageing, which presents a challenge for social care, as you can imagine. We're living for longer, but with more complex health conditions, which places, again, more emphasis on social care and health services. And also, we take into consideration the market stability reports, which links very well with the population needs assessment, because that is basically looking at how resilient are we at coping with that demand that is there. As I've said plenty over the past years, at various points we've been in crisis. We're still in crisis. We're managing that crisis, but it is still a crisis. I think it's important that I mention that at every given point, because we do need a solution, a genuine solution in social care at some point. The regional area plan lays out the actions needed to achieve the priorities that are agreed by the Regional Partnership Board, and today's annual report sets out that progress towards the annual plan's the area plan's key objectives. So, as is in the report, it runs from 2023 to 2027 and will be regularly monitored by the Regional Partnership Board and reported to this council on an annual basis. I'm joined today by Jason O'Brien and Phil Diamond, and also Natasha Harris as well, who will be able to go into greater detail than I've covered. So I don't know whether we'll go to Phil and to cover off anything. Oh, no, sorry, Jason will cover detail that I've probably missed, I think. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Jason O'Brien, Strategic Director, Children and Family Services.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Before I commence, I'd like to point out two inaccurate references within the report. One which refers to this report being placed before Cabinet, whereas it's obviously before Council today, and one that refers to the corporate plan, which should be the county plan, obviously. As Councillor Daniels has pointed out, the purposes of this report is to update and provide Council with a regional area plan for 23 to 27 and the annual report of the Regional Partnership Board as laid out as a statutory duty of the Social Services and Wellbeing Act. The Social Services and Wellbeing Act places a statutory responsibility on local authorities and health boards to work collaboratively to produce a regional plan which is derived from the Population Needs Assessment and Market Stability Report, which was presented and agreed by Council in November 22. The plan and annual report is presented to Council today for awareness and for assurance of the approach in meeting and improving the health and well-being of Torfaen residents via a regional approach which ensures consistency across the Gwent footprint in partnership with our neighbouring local authorities and Iron Bevan University Health Board. Given continued regional challenges and financial pressures, it's beneficial to work in partnership and deliver solutions to joint priorities and, in effect, develop a combined front and a greater level of economy of scale. The area plan and delivery against its objectives is developed and monitored by the Regional Partnership Board. It acknowledges and aligned itself to the priorities and work as identified by the Integrated Service Partnership Board and the relevant elements of the county plan. The area plan sets out the services and responses derived from the population needs assessment and the core themes as laid out in paragraph 4.4. The plan, like our own county plan, is a working document, and work has been done to ensure synergy across key priority areas. As is highlighted in paragraph 10.1, the dynamic nature of the working document means that sign-off by Council today is not considered just as a fait accompli, and comments and feedback will be used to sharpen and develop the plan going forward. Appendix 1 contains the regional area plan in full, with area plan summaries highlighted in Appendix 2. Therein, members will note synergy between the regional plan and elements of Torfaen's own county plan and delivery programme. Appendices 3 and 4 show the key developments and deliverables over the year for 22-23, and I'm sure that members will agree that there's been significant regional activity, again, that is aligned to our county plan. To end, and as I point out within my regional partnership perspective in Appendix 3 of the annual report, the Regional Partnership Board is an example of shared priorities and joint ownership of resolution, where sectors and agencies can support one another, challenge one another, and reach collective solutions in order to meet the needs of those who present as being the most vulnerable. Our challenge going forward is to ensure that our work is increasingly effective and transparent, whilst drawing on and creating community resilience to enable people to live the lives they want to live independently and safely. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you. Phil, do you have anything to add? Phil Diamond?
Nothing to add at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members wishing to speak? I can't see any. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, Dave Williams. Councillor Dave Williams.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. It's just, I think I would only flag up to members that that because there is an involvement with a citizens panel, if they are aware of interested citizens within their own areas, then I'm sure that the citizens panel will always welcome new members to enable a greater level of input and scrutiny into health and social care that affects us all.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Sorry, yes, Councillor Sue Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. I was just very interested to see the feedback on the increased use of the Dewis Wales, Dewis Cymru Wellbeing Resource. I must confess I wasn't particularly well aware of that resource myself until looking at this report, but I do think it's really important that we get the word out that this important Wales-wide resource about what support is available to people with their well-being in the widest sense, from their health right through to their sense of security in their communities, and that we all encourage the groups that we're involved in, and indeed, of course, council services, to be registered and logged on Dewis Cymru so that people in Torfaen get the best access to as wide a range of support as they can when they access this particularly valuable tool. So, yeah, just encouraging members, I suppose, to spread the word about Dewis Cymru and to look actively at whether local resources for health and wellbeing are actually logged on that system.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Councillor Daniels, do you want to come back in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. On that point, yeah, I don't suppose we could get a general kind of explainer of what Dowis is out to members, as well as a link, perhaps. Because I think that in order to share the word, I mean, there'll be many of you who just joined the council last year, and you may not be familiar because, you know, there's so many things that you only learn about maybe 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line. So we'll get something emailed out to you to explain what Dowis is so that you feel better able to spread the word. On Dave's, Councillor Williams's point, I mean, it's a good one, really, because I place a lot of emphasis on citizen presence at the RPB because I think it injects a healthy element of much needed, in some cases, realism, because we're seeing from the ground level what this actually means, what we're dealing with. We're not talking about it in the abstract. We're not talking about it in kind of theory. We're talking about what it actually means to people out there, and I think that's absolutely crucial towards making this partnership an effective partnership. So, you know, absolutely Dave's point, which is that, you know, if you're aware of anybody who is very, very vocal, they're very vocal on social care and health, absolutely, those are the sorts of people we need in the partnership. Thanks for that point, Dave.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels. Councillor Stewart-Ashley.
It's on a similar theme, to be quite honest. I gave this quite a big read, and I noticed on the regional or on the Gwent-wide thing that there's quite a lot of work being done on autism and carers. And has our emphasis gone from what we're doing in Torvine to the regional on both of those areas? Because obviously I have a family need on said thing, but also it is interesting that maybe at a regional level we can get more traction with what we're doing with Naira and Bevan, because they operate as a regional body in effect. I'm just interested in what officers' observations would be on that one. It's somewhat similar to what happens with PSB, because that's gone from being Torvine to being a regional thing, and obviously the facilities at that level. I'm really interested in what Dave has to say about that as well.
Thank you, Councillor Ashley.
I think just on 2 points there, Councillor Ashley, obviously in terms of there's no shift in terms of what we do within Torvine as a result of. What I would say, which I think you pointed out there, is that we will gain greater traction, not just in, I guess, that specific area of the world in carers and working with carers and individuals with autism, but we'll get better traction right across the piece by working regionally and working, like I say, with ABUHB, particularly within that, guys.
Thank you, Jason. Phil Diamond.
Yeah, just to add, there is a regional autism group that feeds into the RPB, and Natasha is a lot more involved with that. What is really good is that we have parents of children with autism and neurodevelopment needs actually working alongside policy officers, so that Torvine is well represented at that group, and we can also share some further information if required.
Can I come back? That would be, because I'm a parent of people with autism myself. It's an area that both the practical outcomes and the information is needed, certainly at adult level.
Definitely. Maybe we could catch up with you outside the meeting, Councillor Ashley, but we're also looking for an RPB autism champion as well. There's a new code of practice that's been published by Welsh Government, and it is picking up on many of the points that have been raised by parents and people living with autism themselves.
That would be very useful. One side effect, the TVA thing the other day, there were a lot of people with autism represented as volunteers at that. It was quite staggering, actually. I noted that.
And just to finish, if I could, we had a regional autism conference down in Palc, and I think there was well, Natasha will probably correct me, but probably between 150 and 200 people attending, and we have a conference report as well where we highlighted a number of the needs identified by citizens. So again, we can share that with members if useful.
That would be really interesting. That would be useful, I think.
Thank you both. Councillor Bonera.
Hi, good morning all. Just to add that there's also an autism awareness online that members could possibly do if they wish, which I took and completed a few years ago, and as a mother of a child as well. I found it very beneficial. I'm happy to share the link. It's free. Also the mental health first aid run by Torfaen Volunteer Alliance, which I did. They're all absolutely wonderful, I think, for members to complete. It really opens your eyes to what is needed in the community. I'm happy to share those links if members would like them.
Thank you, Councillor Bonner. I'm sure members will contact you if they require that. Stephen Vickers would like to come in and respond to Stuart Ashley's point on the regional.
It's just to offer, thank you for the question, Councillor Ashley. It's just really to offer assurance of the work that at the PSB level, at least, we do, of course, have the regional plan with the actions areas, take action to reduce the cost of living crisis in the longer term, enable the support of good quality, affordable, appropriate homes, take action to reduce carbon emissions, help Gwent adapt to climate change and protect and restore our natural environment, take action to address inequalities, particularly in relation to health, through the framework of the Marmot principles, enable and support people, neighbourhoods and communities to be resilient, connected, thriving and safe. That they are the actions that come out of that plan. And I just wanted to assure members that we are looking, as a result of the work around Marmot, at our opportunities to scale up across Gwent so that we can have maximum impact, and we'll be doing that piece of work following the launch of the Marmot event later this month or early next month, and we'll bring further details back around that.
Thank you, Chief Executive. I don't see any other members wishing to speak. Can I draw your attention to the recommendations on page 286 of the report? And can I ask members whether they agree with the recommendations, please? Are there any members against the recommendations? Any members abstaining? Thank you. Thank you, officers. The report is carried. Agenda item 15, which is the motions on notice. There are no motions on notice, so we'll move on to agenda item 16, which is member question time. There are no members' questions, so we'll move on to agenda item 17, which is the Cabinet decisions of the 12th of the 9th, 2023. The Cabinet decisions start on page 293 and are for Council to note. There were no challenges to any of these decisions. Anyone wishing to comment? I don't see any. Thank you. Can I ask members whether they agree to note the recommendations of Cabinet? Thank you. Any members against? Any abstentions? Thank you. They are noted. Agenda item 18, Cabinet decisions of the 10th of the 10th, 2023. Cabinet decisions start on page 295 and are for the Council to note. There were no challenges to any decisions. I'll ask members if they have any comments to make on the Cabinet minutes. Can I ask members if they agree to note those recommendations then, please? Thank you. Are there any members against those recommendations? Any members abstaining? Thank you. Those minutes are noted. That takes us to the date of the time of the next meeting. For your information, members, the next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, the 5th of December, 2023 at 10 a.m. Thank you for the attendance, members and officers, and that's the end of the meeting. Thank you very much.